Hello and welcome to On the Spectrum with Matt Asner. I'm Matt Asner, and welcome to our first show in 2016. It's today is the 12th of January. Welcome, and we're excited to be here. I'm slowly catching up to all of you with this New Year's stuff. It's funny because when you go into the holiday break, usually you have no idea what day it is, you don't know where you are, and that's pretty much where I still am. So I'm slowly catching up, and hopefully this show will be a big push in the right direction for me and getting me back into the swing of things. It's been an interesting break. I've been catching up on a lot of the stories that filled our airwaves this year, and I'm going to go through the top 10 stories that, in terms of Autism Speaks website, what the top 10 stories were this year. We're going to do that in the intro here. And we're also going to talk about the iPad program. We give out over 1,000 iPads over the holidays to really deserving people who are in need of these iPads for their kids or themselves. And we're going to show you a quick video of that in a minute. And we're going to have a great show today. We have new Autism Speaks board member Stephen Shore. Is going to join us, Dr. Stephen Shore. He's going to join us and talk to us about what his dreams are, why he's on the board, and how exciting that is. He is one of two, count those, two people with autism now on the national board at Autism Speaks. Valerie Paradis is another one, and we're really pleased to have them. We're honored, and we're very excited about the future. We also are going to have Kate Movius on, and Kate is going to talk about the work she's doing in wandering, in preventing wandering, and training first responders and second responders, all responders who are dealing with children and adults with autism who wander. I know I've had a little bit of a problem with that with my kid. He's not necessarily a wanderer, but he's a very trusting young man. So we're going to talk a lot about that and talk about some possible solutions or Band-Aids for the problem. And our last segment, we're going to kind of combine the segments at the end. We're going to have my wife, Nava Asner, on, Nava Pasquitz Asner, and we're going to all talk about the holidays, and we are going to show a very special video about a visit to the dentist. And so watch the whole show because you'll be excited to see that. It's kind of fun. And we're going to talk about going to the dentist and going to places that aren't necessarily fun and how we deal with that. So the top 10 news stories for the 2015 year. I'm going to go 10 to 1, okay? We're going to go 10 to 1. We're going to do this real quick, and then we're going to get into the iPad video. So number 10, Disney's Inside Out, helping families with autism look at feelings. Now, Inside Out is one of my favorite films of the year, not just because of the closeness to autism that I think it has, but I think it's just a great film, and it really teaches us how important those feelings are working in concert. Number 9, Masters winner Jordan Spieth, inspired by sister with special needs. He won the Masters in April and dedicated his win to her. So very exciting story there. Number 8, siblings walk alongside twin brother with autism at graduations. This is Allie Bonville, who was a recent high school graduate and had a twin brother with autism. She shared her story about growing up with her brother. D.L. Hughley shares emotional story about his son with autism on Oprah. That's great. You should look it up. It's very emotional. Number 6, ID cards helping police interact with drivers with autism. Another important aspect of training first responders. I know my dad was pulled over once, and my brother was in the back seat, and my dad pulled the car over, and the cop comes up to the car and says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And my brother says from the back seat, "Do you know who you're talking to?" So, a lot of stuff can happen there, and it's very important to educate people about what's going on there. Number 4, Ellen, New York Jets surprise teenager with autism on national TV. So that was fun. Number 3, Sesame Street's new Muppet, Julia, has autism. You guys should check that out if you haven't heard about that. Number 2, Broadway star pens open letter after boy with autism interrupts show. That was actually a very cool one. It was a performance of The King and I, and someone got very irate in the audience, and the gentleman who was part of the cast wrote this incredible kind of manifesto about why he does what he does, and it was beautiful and touching, and people should read that. The number one story on the Autism Speaks website for the year 2015, Mall Santa goes the extra mile for the boy with autism. So basically after this woman's son, Braden, was diagnosed with autism at age 3, she assumed there were some experiences that just might not be in the cards, so she took him to see a Santa, and the Santa was just very giving to that kid, and it was a very special video. Check it out. That was the number one story for our Autism Speaks year. Now I want to show you a little video. Every year we give out over 1,000 iPads to people who are in need. iPads, I mean, I know they're very special for several of the kids in our family, and I know a lot of people who really rely on not just an iPad for speech, for those who have, who have speech issues, but for those that just need that diversion when they're out in public. It could be a curse and a blessing to have an iPad, but a lot of people really need this for their kids. There are special programs you could put on it. It's so we do this every year, and we have a short video that we're going to play, and then I'll be right back. So this is Autism Speaks iPad grant giveaway. Take a look.
Sylvia, open this, pull it.
How do you say iPad? iPad. What's in there? iPad! Yay!
Okay, let's see. Oh, that's so nice.
Wow. The anticipation. Is that awesome?
Yeah. Look, it's the iPad. Want to play on the iPad?
I want muffins.
You want Fruit Loops?
Fruit Loops?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Fruit
we
Loops.
get your Fruit Loops.
Thank you, Autism Speak,
Thank you, Autism Speak.
for my iPad.
You like it, boy? Tony, yeah. Look. Tony, you like it?
Thank you, Autism Speaks.
What do you think?
Wasn't that amazing? So, like I said, there's over 1,000 iPads given away to deserving people. And I think it was last year or the year before, I actually went and delivered to 2 families personally and gave them their iPads. And it was probably one of my favorite things that I've done at Autism Speaks, just because I got to see their faces. And it was very special. And it was great. So, if you want to take part in our iPad program, it happens every September, October, and keep an eye on our website and our Facebook page for the call to action. to apply for the grants, and we'll, hopefully you'll get lucky and get a grant. Okay, we're going to be right back with Dr. Stephen Shore, new board member for Autism Speaks on the national board, first time ever, and we're going to talk to him about the future. We'll be right back. This is On the Spectrum. We'll be right back.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back to On the Spectrum. My next guest, my first guest of 2016, this is very fitting because my first guest for 2016 is Dr. Stephen Shore. And I've known Stephen for a while now, and I've always been impressed by him. And I was very excited to hear that he was accepting the position on the National Board for Autism Speaks. He and Valerie Paradis are both on the spectrum. They're both on the national board. And Stephen Shore joins us right now from Boston. From Boston, right?
Yeah, that's right. Right from the Boston Higashi School. Today was opening day, as it is for many schools around the nation. And it's great to be on the show.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And I can't tell you how excited I am for you to be on the board. Now, to be fair, you've been on the advisory board for how many years?
Well, I've actually been on the Family Services Committee for a number of years.
Right.
As far as I know, I haven't been on the advisory board.
That was my mistake. I was calling the committee an advisory board, so my bad.
Oh, okay.
But you were on the Family Services Committee for how many years? For 5 years, right?
Yeah, I would say a good 4 to 5 years.
And so talk to us about what your feelings were when you were approached by, I guess Brian Kelly approached you, who's the new chair of the board, approached you and asked you to join the board. Tell us about what you felt about that.
Well, I guess it was a good thing I was sitting down because I thought I was going to fall on the floor. And it was like, here is Autism Speaks, the largest organization, autism organization in the world, is asking me to sit on their board. And it was such an honor. And I told them, let me think about it for a little bit. My wife came home, I talked to her, and she said, what the heck are you waiting for? Call him right back.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and it's a great honor to be on the board of Autism Speaks. And I've been to one board meeting so far, and it was a very intense meeting.
I know they are. Now, one of the things that I find most impressive about you is your ability to talk to people about the issues of autism. And I know you talk to a lot of people who have been diagnosed late in life, or certainly as young adults.
Right.
And I've talked to a lot of people who say that you've helped them immeasurably. And so I think an opportunity here to really have a great, strong voice from you and Valerie, and change, I think, a huge perception that people have that that Autism Speaks doesn't speak for them. So, can you talk maybe about some of the things that you're interested in looking at, and how you might be giving a voice to the people?
Yeah, certainly. Well, ever since I've been working with Autism Speaks, I've always felt this intensity of work being done by a lot of good people. And specifically, I'm thinking about the Family Services Committee with Andy Shee and his work in the international arena. And what I found from these people and others is that there was a true sense of wanting to support individuals on the autism spectrum. And that goes all the way up to the top with Brian Kelly, who told me about his 19-year-old son, and he's all about providing supports to help him lead as fulfilling and productive life as possible. And it's great to see Autism Speaks going in that direction. Autism is something that's been with us for a long, long time, tens of thousands of years, maybe since the dawn of humanity. And if we look at autism as a set of characteristics, not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but a set of characteristics, the question is, what can we do to engage these characteristics in a way that can help that person with autism lead fulfilling and productive lives? And given that those of us on the autism spectrum tend to be a study of extremes, meaning the things that we do well, we do incredibly well, and the things that we don't do so well, it can be pretty horrible.
Yeah.
That speaks to the need of both supports and also a way to help society understand how people with autism can contribute to humankind. That said, autism is an extremely wide spectrum, and in some cases, maybe it's too wide for its own good, because we do have people on the autism spectrum who have not developed a reliable means of communication, at least as of yet, or maybe they have, but we haven't figured it out. Some people on the spectrum have significant and debilitating sensory, digestive, or other conditions, and we're duty-bound to continue our research in these areas as well and providing them support.
I'll tell you, Stephen, that's one of the things that I think, I've worked at Autism Speaks now for 5 years, and I think that's one of the things that frustrated me the most is that, certainly I'm here because of my own son and my sons and my brother. And if you look at my sons and my brother, we are a wide range of spectrum there. You're going from one end to the other, and it's each case is different. Each has their own anxieties and problems and blessings, and I think the thing that's frustrated me the most is that it's very difficult to get neurotypical people to understand that, and I'll even go so far as to say it's difficult to get people with autism to kind of understand that and to deal with that and to deal with the fact that there is a difference there and that there are people who have challenges. And so how can we address that issue in a very diplomatic way?
Well, I think the best way to look at it is to develop an understanding of what the needs are of the individual who happens to be on the autism spectrum, whatever it may be. And I mentioned it could be sensory, it could be communication, it could be social interaction, it could be digestive, it could be whatever it is. And just providing for those needs. And there are those of us on the spectrum who have significant and intensive needs that require 24-hour supervision. And there are others of us on the spectrum who may still have needs, but the supervision or support may be more occasional in nature, maybe a couple hours a day or a couple hours a week. There are others on the autism spectrum, and especially going back to your mention of adults who have been diagnosed on the spectrum, late diagnoses, where they didn't know they had autism, or I should say have autism,
Right.
and somehow they've managed to struggle through life and become successful. And then sometime in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, they find out that they're on the autism spectrum, and it answers a whole host of questions and allows them to be even more successful. So it's really getting into the needs of the individual, and that's what I think the developers of the DSM-5 were getting at when they eliminated the subtypes and they went to a severity scale.
Right. So let's talk about your autism. How would you say it manifests itself for you, for the audience?
These days, autism, the areas that it affects me include sensory. So I tend to be hypersensitive to certain sounds. Just for example, I was in our sunroom watching TV with my wife a couple of nights ago, and I was lying on the couch and she was sitting in a chair. There were 3 clocks ticking, sitting on the other end of the room and just ticking horribly loudly, like those travel alarm clocks that tick once a second. And I just said to her, we got to get these clocks out of here. Just put them in the kitchen or the dining room, just get them far, far away, because they were just too distracting. So things like that where autism makes its presence known. Other challenges include reading subtle social situations or office politics, and having a strong set of mentors at the workplace can help greatly with that. Facial recognition, a challenge for many of us on the spectrum. It's at such a point where it takes me all semester to begin to recognize my students. However, I use it as a teaching tool, one for managing the classroom, and 2 as a means of disclosure and recognizing what one's strengths and challenges are as an educator and how we can use them to be successful in teaching as well.
Great. So let's talk about 3 most important steps now for Autism Speaks in your view.
I would say that one of the most important steps, and Autism Speaks is well on its way to doing this, which is great, is listening to the voice of individuals on the autism spectrum. And Autism Speaks has been doing that in ways that sometimes were invisible to those of us on the autism spectrum, and certainly invisible to those of us who weren't close to Autism Speaks. And you probably have to visit the office in New York to know that there are at least 2 people on the autism spectrum working in the office and doing great jobs at what they do. Kerry Magro is one of them.
Kerry's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. And he has autism, and it's almost like, well, why aren't you telling people this and letting people know in response to the criticism that there isn't, you might say, autistic involvement in Autism Speaks. And then now, inviting 2 people on the autism spectrum onto the board of directors is another great step. And I see it now as my mission to interface with the autism community, and you might say crowdsource, and getting a bead on what what people with autism would like to see in terms of Autism Speaks, supporting individuals on the autism spectrum. So in other words, calling for constructive suggestions on what we can do better for the autism community.
Okay, now I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to ask you, what are the 3 most important things for the autism community to achieve?
I think I actually got 1 for Autism Speaks, and I didn't get the other 2. But anyways, at least the first, the most important thing for the autism community, and I'm only speaking for myself, and I'm only speaking for the autism community as I understand it, because no one person can represent everybody. But I think a really good thing to do would be to engage in a conversation with Autism Speaks and talk to the people who are engaged with Autism Speaks in various capacities, such as being on the board. So I'm a person to engage with. Valerie Paradis is the other person. And also talking to people who aren't necessarily on the autism spectrum. And just having some nice, frank, understanding and direct talks, not blaming people and not getting into any battles, but looking at how we can all achieve what I think is a common goal, which is to reduce suffering and promote productivity and fulfillment in our lives.
Perfect. So have people been supportive of this decision of yours to join the board?
Yeah, most people have been supportive.
Good.
I would give it a good 90%, maybe a little bit more.
Well, that's great.
Based on what I've seen on my Facebook page, based on conversations that I've had, I'm sure there's other conversations going on in places that I haven't looked at. But at least based on what I've seen, it's been a very high majority, again, 90%, who are in support.
Well, Stephen, I am a huge fan of yours, have been for a long time. I've admired you for a long time. Glad to know you, glad to call you a friend. And I can't tell you enough how excited I am that you're on the board. I couldn't handpick a better person for the board. You and Valerie, I think, are going to change things for the better, and I'm excited to see what happens as a result. So I want to thank you for coming on the show, and any final thoughts for the audience?
Well, it's my honor to be working with the people at Autism Speaks, and that we all need to be focused on what is the best for the individual on the autism spectrum, and what can we do to help those of us on the spectrum to lead fulfilling and productive lives to our greatest potential.
Words to live by. Words to live by. Thank you, Stephen. I so appreciate it. And get back to class.
All right, my pleasure.
See you soon. Take care.
Take care.
All right, that was Dr. Stephen Shore, new board member for Autism Speaks, national board member. He and Valerie Paradis are the new board members who are both on the spectrum. And it's very exciting to have them on the show. And we'll be right back with Kate Movius and Nava Paskowitz-Asner. Welcome back Down the Spectrum with Matt Asner, and joining me right now is my lovely wife, Nava.
Hello. Happy New Year.
And thank you. Happy New Year to you. I don't know if we've actually said that to each other since midnight.
I would hope so.
Since midnight.
Yes.
So
Happy New Year, Matt.
Happy official New Year.
To you too.
And have you adapted? Are you
No,
back?
I'm not.
We're both
I'm
kind
not
of,
ready to go
we're
back
both kind
to
of wandering around a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
We've enjoyed this wandering.
exactly. Well, we can use this as a kind of jumping point into reality. So
Unfortunately,
right?
back to the grind.
Well, we're going to talk about family stuff in a little bit.
Okay.
But joining us right now is our good friend Kate Mobius.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
And to you, Nava.
And welcome to 2016.
Thank you so much.
And
I'll be
welcome.
writing 2015 on every check I write until it's finally time for the year to change.
Right around December we start. Right?
I actually wrote a check today, and I wrote it for 2016. So that's a huge
Good
jump
for
for
you.
me because I never do that. I'm like 2015 until March or
Yeah,
April.
doesn't happen for me.
So, okay, we're here for a very serious reason. And we had thought about doing a show about health today, but we decided to change things up because, unfortunately, there were some issues this weekend. Some things happened this weekend that are tragic, and we wanted to have you in to talk about wandering. And what specifically I'm talking about is the young man in Allentown, Pennsylvania, who Jael Vega Batista, who wandered away from a party that his family was having, and unfortunately was found later to have drowned.
Yeah.
This is a very common thing. Kids that wander, a lot of kids with autism wander. A lot of kids with autism wander towards water. I always think that we should take a look at these tragic things and try and build some hope into it. And try and build some progress into it. So how do we do this? I mean, there's some things that we're doing as an organization and as what you're doing in terms of training first responders and individuals to deal with autism. I think is a huge step in where we need to go. But what else needs to happen? We're going to talk about that. But let's first talk about your own son,
Aiden.
You're an expert in this.
Yeah, he's given me a PhD in autism.
So you'll literally go to sleep at night, or try to go to sleep at night, and you will wake up and realize that he's not home.
Well, fortunately, it hasn't happened that often, but we did have a major incident the summer before last where he did go missing for several hours. He had gotten out of our locked home, and he was wandering the streets of Los Angeles.
So as a parent, that's
nightmare.
Horrific. I mean, it's horrifying.
It was horrifying.
And I'm sorry, his age, around...
At the time, he was 13. He's now 15.
So a 13-year-old who is limited verbal, right?
Yep.
Alone in the city, in the middle of the night, wandering the streets of Los Angeles.
Quite a very urban area of LA. We live near eastern Los Angeles. And
enough to send anyone into a tailspin. I would say that.
Well, I love, it was terrifying, and the LAPD and the fire departments discovered him. I had at that time already called 911, but I was sleeping when he went missing. So we missed a few hours in there that we won't be able to fill in until Aiden can tell us.
Yeah.
And I have great hope that he'll be able to tell us what he did. He was very lucky. He was not injured. He was not traumatized. But he very well could have been. He was found right near a major intersection and was brought to the hospital to be checked out. And I was at that time already training families in wandering prevention. So that was the great irony, that the person who trains families in wandering prevention, that my own son had gone missing in such a dramatic fashion. So the two things that we changed from that point on, other than the behavioral intervention and training that we were giving Aiden himself, the signs that we had been posting around the home, And the communication that we had with first responders and our neighbors, those were the things we had already put into place. We added to that a state-of-the-art alarm system and keyless entry locks. And I can't stress enough how much those locks made a difference in Aiden's life. They're not that expensive.
Okay, so explain that to me. So
Right, I don't know what that
keyless entry, so it looks like a fob, right? You have a fob? Is that what it is?
It's, I don't know what a fob is.
Well, like I have it
We're
on
Like
talking
those
to a-
little things that say.
It's an electronic
little
thing.
Apple
No.
thing.
Oh, it's
not
not. Okay,
electronic.
so explain this to me.
It's not electronic.
Explain this to me.
It's simply a panel with buttons that you
Oh,
push that
okay.
are not electronic. So it's
Oh,
it's a mechanism
so
inside.
It's like a bike lock, so to speak.
Exactly.
And Aiden doesn't glance at that and go, dee, 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 dee,
Oh
dee.
yes,
And
he's
because I would think that.
sure.
He's trying to figure it out.
Well, I
He
mean,
is.
Eddie, if he just glances even out of the side of his eye at my code, he's been able to get my code for my
Yes.
phone. Like,
So that's the one thing that you have to continually watch out for. But I would say for any family that's concerned about wandering, that should be the first order of business. Oftentimes you'll read on wandering prevention websites, and it's a lot of the advice that's given, now I've learned the hard way, is not correct, which has to do with the locks. A lot of the websites will say to use deadbolts, which, by the
Oh,
way,
right.
are a fire hazard and are not approved by
of
the
course,
Department
because you
of
need to get
Child
out.
and
If you
Family
need to get out,
Services.
you need to get out.
So, and that's how Aiden figured it out. He took a key and he opened the deadbolt. And again, it's dangerous to have a home that's locked,
Right.
both ways. So just to do your doors, redo your doors. If you can't afford a state-of-the-art alarm system, which most people, that's a major expense. Get some keyless entry locks. Have a locksmith put them in for a couple $100. It was a game changer for Aiden. Absolute game changer.
Now, in terms of, I mean, a lot of what you do is you work, like you said, you work with first responders who are, police, fire, ambulance drivers, EMT,
Right.
People, and you work with them to teach them about what autism is.
Sure. So that's the other piece of it.
Different facets
Right.
of autism.
Yeah.
So, explain to a family that's watching right now. Maybe they have a newly diagnosed child. They don't know if their child's going to be a wanderer yet. Maybe they do have a child that's exhibiting some wandering behavior. So let's talk a little bit about what maybe they can do within their community.
Sure.
To better safeguard and keep a horrible
Prepare the
situation
neighbors.
from happening.
I'd say the very first thing to do, if you're looking at this as like a pyramid, like the foundation, what I always say to families to do is to teach your child to swim, even before we take those next steps. Drowning is the leading cause of death, as we learned so tragically over the weekend out of Pennsylvania. It's the leading cause of death for children with autism who wander. 91% of fatalities for children with autism who wander have drowned.
Yeah.
oh.
Teach your child to swim. At the same time,
And I'll
as
just
you're
put a
doing
plug
that,
in there.
Yeah.
Autism Speaks has swim grants.
Fantastic.
So make sure you look at the website for that. They're amazing, and teach your child to swim.
Here in
Yeah.
California, now this was several years ago for Aiden when he was very young, Aiden's swim lessons were funded by the regional center. So that might be worth looking into. We know funding has changed a lot in the last decade, but it's one of the things that I would lobby for myself is
Well,
that
that's the
swim
thing.
lessons be included
Yeah.
in automatically in services. It's a tricky thing to get past through. But next, and simultaneously while you're doing that, you need to build community. You need to let your neighbors know, as Nava said. Also, a visit to your local police station is pretty important. Bringing your child to meet
Right.
officers
so they're
who
not
are in
freaked
uniform.
out when they see a policeman and
Right, exactly. But also to educate your local officers that you have a child with autism at the home.
Right.
Can they have 911 flag it? Sometimes you can have your address flagged so that, say, there is a 911 call that goes out. The dispatcher will be able to see that there is an individual with autism living at the house.
Which is very
wow.
important.
Yeah.
That's
Especially
incredible.
if you have an adult living with you with autism.
Sure.
Who is nonverbal or limited
That's right.
verbal.
Who's very vulnerable.
We've all heard those stories of cops that come to houses and especially if there's an aggression issue.
Oh, right. They just take
it could
the
turn
kid.
really bad. So it's important for police to know and for fire and
Sure.
EMTs to know
It really helps them a lot.
what's going on in that house. One of the things I read about, and I thought this was a great idea, were night shirts. So to have your child sleep in a shirt if they're a wanderer, and because most of the wandering happens at night, I guess. Is that true?
What would stop a kid from just whoosh, taking that shirt off?
That would be the issue for Aiden. So Nava brings up a good point.
I'm sorry, I get right down to the facts.
Well, then the shirt would not work for them. But the shirt might work for someone who is out, walking around with a shirt on.
Sure.
And they're yellow. The ones I've seen are yellow, and they say on them, "I have autism. Please call 911."
And there's also If I
I'm
Need
alone.
Help. If I Need Help is a great organization that provides these shirts and other wearable IDs.
What about the bracelet?
Now, bracelets. Aiden's been through 3 of them.
That.
I just ordered another. So I'll keep you posted on whether he can keep it on.
And that's the problem.
I can't imagine Eddie would do that.
Yeah.
That's the problem here, because identification is difficult, because you have kids or adults who have sensory issues and who don't like things on them.
Sure.
And they'll rip it off.
What about a internal device?
What, like a chip?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard people talk about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, the ethics are tricky there, and many people have talked about it.
I would do that.
My honest feeling about that. My honest feeling about that.
We have our dog chipped.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, my honest feeling
I
about
would
that
rather
is,
have my child found than have the tragedy of that.
I agree with you, 100%. 100%. If I would say
our dog is chipped.
I would say if I would probably make that decision for my child.
There's an alternative.
Yes.
Which is Project Lifesaver.
Right, and Autism Speaks just gave $98,000 to Project Lifesaver to help families in this area.
Which is fantastic.
So explain Project Lifesaver, and we're going to actually take a look at a video that we have that kind of explains one family who is using Project Lifesaver. So maybe explain a little bit about what they are, and then we'll go to video.
Project Lifesaver, kind of in a nutshell, is a wearable tracking device. It's worn either on the wrist or on the ankle. For those individuals who have a really hard time wearing things on the wrist and who are very good at taking items off the wrist, the ankle bracelet has, the anklet, I suppose it would be called, has proven to be really effective. Now, Project Lifesaver has to be put into place with your local police department. You can't just purchase it and have it work, because they possess all the tracking devices at the local station, so that should the person go missing, they can actually track. From the air, very, very high up, and over a wide range of terrain in urban areas.
So it's a personal tracking device.
It's a personal tracking device, but you have to have the cooperation and the involvement and the investment too, the financial investment of your local police department, which of course in the case of LA is LAPD, which is an enormous undertaking.
And you're working with them to hopefully transition them into
Well, I've worked with the Glendale PD and helped them to get that into place, and they're now running that program. And Glendale is an urban area. It's a city, and they ran a lot of tests to see if this tracking device would be effective near electrical towers and in warehouses, and it's really, really been effective. So I think it's, there's no technology that's perfect. And yes, chipping, it's many people, again, have asked for this and brought this up, and others have fought it and said that's not ethical. Anyway, we're in the infancy of all this tracking. But we, as families with children who may wander, or if you have an adult in your family who may wander, it's really important to avail yourself of anything and everything. So try the night shirt, try the wearable technology, try a tracking device.
Try things.
Try things. If it's not available in your local community, talk to your local police department about it. Contact Autism Speaks. Try to get awareness out there, and that kind of feeds into another piece that you can put into place as parents with children, is to talk to all your neighbors. Right. Not everybody likes their neighbors. Not everybody trusts their neighbors. So you do have to choose who are you going to tell about your child's great vulnerability.
How do we deal with the individual?
Well, yes, very important.
I mean, our kid Will is not a wanderer. Mm-hmm. He's not a wanderer. He will stay with you. There's no problem. If you tell him to sit somewhere, he'll sit somewhere. The issue that Will has is trust, and
too much trust.
Too much trust.
Yeah.
And basically, if someone comes up to him and says, "Hey, I've got, and this has happened. I've got a dog in the car. You want to come see the dog?"
Yeah.
And he'll go with, and that's it. Bye bye, Will. And so we've got to be very diligent about him and keeping an eye on him. And I learned my lesson with him. Boy, I looked the other way once, or I did something I'd done like a million times,
Right.
And found him. He was almost abducted. So, very difficult.
And that's a good question about what do you do with the individual.
And that's the thing, because I have talked to him. Nava's talked to him. Everyone's talked to him for endlessly. Trying to get him to understand the dangers of.
Does he have a social story? Does he have a photo book?
We have done that, but he. And I got to say, he's better than he was. Much better than he was.
And he understands so much, and you can reason with him, and he gets it now.
Right.
I think he really
worked.
understands the difference between strangers.
Your strategies worked.
But I still have that never-ending
Always.
fear in me.
It's a hypervigilance.
And then
That
if
the
it was
right
a
person's
woman,
going to come along and say, "Hey, come with
and
me."
if it was a woman,
And if it was a
guy who had a woman, do his
Well,
dirty work.
I don't think you can ever
protect them from
everything, whether or not they're autistic.
That's true.
But for Aiden, we are still, but we have for years worked on teaching him about safety, which does not come, as we all know, it does not come naturally. Looking both ways to cross the street does not come naturally. Stranger danger does not come naturally. So we've created a variety of social stories through his ABA program, which was absolutely key in helping him. That said, he still needs to run. And so what I always ask myself is, why does Aiden need to run? The reason that my son needs to run, which may not be the same reason that someone else has, is because he is an incredible athlete. He needs to run. He needs to feel his body running through space. He doesn't tell me this yet. I'm sure he will eventually. But this is what just by watching him and knowing him, I have to try to ask myself, why is it that he wants to do this? What's compelling him to do this? And in his case, it's his extreme athleticism, which may not have the kind of outlet that someone without autism would naturally be able to get, let's say, in a basketball league or football. Aiden would have trouble playing a team sport. So the other piece of this is sort of looking at it holistically. How can we address that need in Aiden? So we try to get, he gets out and about and runs in the community. We have great community integration support through the regional center, and we also have enrolled him in CrossFit through Special Fit, which is an incredible company that serves the needs of those with autism. So that sort of helps address things too, but it's a patchwork. You have to work with your local police department, work with your neighbors, work with your child, look into tracking devices, look into wearable devices, and of course secure your home and teach the child to swim. And I kind of went backwards in the priority there.
Right.
When Aiden went missing, the officers were unable to understand him when they asked for his name. He is able to respond to that, but it was too fast. And so learning from that, I'm realizing maybe another good way would have been to have him type it, because Aiden types.
Right.
So,
but giving them the example of all the different
it helps the
variations of
officers so
autism.
much, and they really appreciate it. And I think that part of my training goes much farther than all my lecturing, is when they actually meet kids and teens on the spectrum.
Yeah. And I have another must for parents out there, and then we're going to say goodbye to you. You must teach your child your phone number.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Must. And what's funny is the other day, I had a famous story at the LA Auto Show where Will went missing, and I panicked. I was panicked. I was running around. Oh, God, it was horrible. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, and it's someone calling me, a guy from Vovil. Calling me and saying, "Hey, I think I have your son here with me. He told me to give you a call." And I'm like,
wonderful.
"Oh my God, thank you."
Yeah.
And he knew my phone number. I had no idea he knew my phone number. And the other day we're sitting at home, And I was kind of remembering that story.
But you were actually lecturing to me, saying, you have to teach Eddie your phone number. You have to teach. And God bless his teachers in the ICAP program last year. Matt just says out of the blue to him, Eddie, you have to learn your mom's phone number. And what's your mom's phone number? And he just said it without hesitation, perfectly. Gave my phone number.
That is
unbelievable.
Great.
And
That's
we both screamed, and he was like, too loud.
You can implement these things in your IEP. So all this wandering prevention, it's very important to construct that into your IEP through the regional center. So learning phone numbers, street address, name, whether it's typed or it's spoken. You don't have to be verbal to learn these things, and you just have to figure out a way to teach our kids. So that's a good point.
Very good. Well, okay, so if anyone wants to come to this training or take part in this training, how do they get in touch with you?
They can contact me at katemovius@gmail.com.
katemovius@gmail.com. And we'll have that on our Facebook page. Kate, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'm so appreciative of what you do. You're one of the heroes of our community here in Los Angeles. And those of you that don't know her outside of Los Angeles, maybe you will someday.
If you're lucky.
But thank you so much for what you do, and it's always a pleasure. You're a good friend to my wife as well, and you're much appreciated.
Thank you, Matt.
So thank you, and good luck with the training.
Thank you.
And we're actually gonna play this video from Project Lifesaver right now, and then we're gonna come back. And do a quick story and say goodbye. So we'll be right back. This is Project Lifesaver.
He has moderate to severe autism. He was diagnosed officially when he turned 3. I had suspicions between about 15 and 18 months when he stopped acquiring language. He wouldn't respond to his name when you called him, but he could run from upstairs down to the television set if he heard the Barney song come on. So that was a disconnect, that something else must be going on.
He's observant. He knows what's going on around him. So we have to assume that there's more going on upstairs than he's able to communicate or let on.
He's also adventuresome, and he doesn't understand danger, like going into other people's cars, crossing the street, leaving our safe home. All the kids had gone trick-or-treating in one large building that was an apartment complex a couple blocks away from our home. And the next night, without us realizing it, John left the house, and I think he was trying to go back and trick-or-treat some more. He really liked all that candy that he had gotten. And then after that, we really became aware of putting locks on doors and always making sure we knew where John was.
Initially, we had locks on all the doors, but locks to keep people from getting out as opposed to keeping people from getting in. We had an alarm system installed.
He was down playing in the basement, and he was able to stack up boxes and go out a small window in the basement. He's also taken a butter knife and gone around the whole edge of the window and pushed the whole thing out.
He's a lovable kid, and to think that he's out there somewhere, you just feel like you just flunked the test.
I am a police officer in Montgomery County, Maryland, and my job is primarily to ensure the safety of individuals with autism. We've trained our officers to help them, and we're prepared to help them no matter what the situation. Project Lifesaver is a program where we place tracking bracelets on individuals that have a propensity to elope and wander, and officers using the equipment provided are able to track the bracelet.
The most recent one was the first time we've actually used Project Lifesaver, his tracking bracelet, and that worked fairly quickly. He was found inside a grocery store about 1.5 miles from our house, and he had a sleep shirt on that have been given by the Montgomery County Police Department. A car driving by saw this shirt that says, "I have autism. If I'm alone, please call 911," and they did.
What I was finding, though, is we needed to do more than just tracking. We needed to have a community outreach tool that was a layered approach to safety. Individuals with autism may become scared, they may hide, they may bolt and run from us. So we teach our officers those dynamics so that in the event of a search, they're prepared. They're never shocked. They're never surprised.
We've taken him out to events, open houses that the police department holds, and we introduce him to them and vice versa. So he gets to see them in a calm, happy setting.
And what's also happened is that officers know John. All of the officers know John. So when John goes missing, it's all hands on deck. And everybody knows John's missing, and we're going to look for John. So I think what it's done is it's put a face and allowed officers to have a little bit more compassion.
What should the person do? Home what? And what's that? Is that your home phone number? Yeah. I always want John to first to be safe, in a safe environment. And then I want him to be happy. So those are my two biggest. Whatever he can achieve beyond that, that's icing on the cake, but safety and happiness are really what we hope for.
Go kiss your mother.
Have a kiss.
One more. Thank you.
Welcome back to On the Spectrum. Okay, so one of the things that Nav and I did over the break was, take a couple of the kids to the dentist, namely Will and Eddie to the dentist. Both the kids with autism, both with a little bit of an anxiety situation about the dentist. Nava has posted on Facebook about her dental experiences in the past with Eddie, and so I think about last year. It was last year?
Yeah. This is the fourth dentist.
Fourth dentist. Last year, Nava literally had to get in the chair and scissor grip him into the chair and force his mouth open to get the dentist to be able to take care of him. Will was in a situation where he would not sit in the dentist chair. It freaked him out. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to get in the comfy chair. So victory on all fronts.
Thanks to this wonderful doctor, though.
Thanks to Dr. Vafa.
And I found Dr. Vafa through the resource guide, which I think, to me, going back in time, the Autism Speaks resource guide saved my life, because you put in your zip code, it's like a miracle. It's like things local to your
resources. Just
right, and Dr. Vafa was a wonderful doctor who had been vetted by Autism Speaks, but also he took Medi-Cal. And for me, being a single mom at the time, the fact that this wonderful doctor who happened to be in this huffy Beverly Hills office took Medi-Cal, it was like a miracle. And through his gentleness and kindness, he's completely turned Edwin and now Will around, and our entire family sees him. He's wonderful.
And so, so Will sat in the chair. Will leaned back.
He actually told you, Dad, leave.
He actually told me to leave. He told me to leave, and I ended up leaving, and he was alone in the chair and had his teeth cleaned. He's a man. He's a man. And then Eddie still had a little bit of a problem and wanted to do some role reversal.
Yeah.
So I volunteered. And Kelby's going to play a video right now of the actual role reversal, the role playing that happened at the dentist's office. This is Eddie at the dentist.
Wait.
He literally stuck that all the way down my throat.
Sometimes it uses a special little mirror to poke around the inside your mouth.
Dr. Eddie? He loves that light.
Okay.
Is everything okay? Am I okay?
No. You're not okay.
So as you see, Dr. Eddie discovered, 3 cavities in my mouth, and I'm going back for fillings next week with Dr. Eddie.
Nice Jewish doctor. I'm so proud.
But Eddie, what that reversal did, and that's what actually you mentioned, Dr. Vafa, to allow a child to kind of take over like that for a little bit. And
he made Eddie put gloves on. He's like, oh, so Dr. Eddie, what do you think we should do? He was just, he's an incredible guy.
So it made everything more comfortable. And Eddie literally got in the chair after that and
perfect
opened his mouth, and there was no problem at all.
Right.
So
thank God.
I guess the story here is don't be afraid to experiment and
don't give up.
If there's anxiety, try making it a game.
Somebody else. Don't force the kid. That's the thing. I think so many parents are embarrassed. They're embarrassed, just fundamentally sometimes, and then they're embarrassed to complain. They think, oh, my kid's already, loud and weird and whatever, and they're embarrassed to complain when in fact it might be that that's just not the right dentist for them.
Right.
So literally Dr. Baffa was the fourth guy that I found.
And you know, I can't tell you how important dental is, you know, for any kid. You know, no one wants to go to the dentist. I don't want to go to the dentist. Our kids don't want to go to the dentist. Yeah. And it's important, and finding the right dentist is a really important aspect of that.
It definitely was
finding the
gift
dentist that's going to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're out of time.
Alrighty.
And thank you for joining me today.
Here's to a wonderful year for
you,
Matt.
Lots of wonderful things happening.
Yes.
Lots of wonderful things happening for you. And I want you to share it with me. I want you to share with me the wonderful things that happen to you. So if you have a wonderful thing that happens to you, tweet me about it at MASNER, and let me know. Let me know what's going on in your life. Our February show is going to be really cool. When I did a show a while back called Autism America with my friend Nick Gieber. And we had a regular segment with a young man named Alex Fischetti, who is on the spectrum, and he's just fascinated with Hollywood. So we're going to have a regular Hollywood segment from now on the show from Alex Fischetti, and he's going to talk about the Oscar race next month, and who he likes, who he doesn't like, what the buzz is. And we're going to talk to him and see what's going on. And that'll be a regular segment from then on. And I'm excited about that. Alex is an amazing guy, and I think he'll entertain you all a lot. And I think it'll add a lot to the show. Until then, keep the hope alive, and we will see you next month on Autism. I was going to say on Autism Live. On the Spectrum. Thanks.